Welcome back. In the last video, we learned that accountability and ownership is where I accept responsibility for my part, and especially for what I do from here moving forward. And in this, I regain my power. But when I live in that old story, I give my power away. Now in today's video, we're going to move into understanding how to distinguish when we've been robbed of our power and how to take it back. I want you to pay attention to those times in life when you've been listening to someone else's victim story. What happens when we listen to someone complain or give excuses about how they've been wronged in life? Now, at first it may feel like, oh wow, I feel bad for them, I feel empathy. And eventually it makes us feel drained, feeling maybe ramped up at the beginning, but eventually empty afterwards. Feeding someone's victim story is like trying to fill a cup that has a hole in the bottom. So for us to understand what does it sound like and what does it look like when we have a victim story, it's important to distinguish the difference between the term victimized versus a victim story. Now, victimized is when you are unexpectedly taken advantage of. For example, you go downtown and you go to a great show, a great movie and dinner, and somewhere in that whole process, someone pickpockets you. All right? In that moment, you've been victimized, unexpectedly taken advantage of. So if that is victimized, what does it mean to be victim? It's more when I now think about downtown after being pickpocketed and I say, never go downtown, it's so dangerous, people are awful down there, right? And I carry this big dramatic story or even a very subtle story on where we have been wronged and how it might happen again. Now, what we do after that instance of being unexpectedly taken advantage of, that's our choice. That's where we move into ownership over our lives and accountability, or we move into drained energy of the victim story. So do we choose to be the victim of the event, or do we choose into ownership and accountability? To me, hearing a victim story, or even sharing a victim story, is like eating a Snickers bar for breakfast. It's a beautiful analogy I learned from my very good friend Heidi. What immediately happens when we eat a Snickers bar for breakfast is we get immediate spike of energy, right? It's like hearing that victim story and we're like, yeah, downtown is terrible. It's so dangerous down there. And then what eventually happens to that energy from the Snickers bar or from the story? Well, is it sustainable? No, it falls flat. We feel that rush of community and rush of power, and then eventually it drops us flat. It eventually pulls us below the line. Commonly because we're forced into or we choose to use victim language. Now, in our language series, I talked about marshmallow words. I'd like to review those now. These are the words that commonly surface when we are sharing our victim stories. I call them powerless words. They're also called marshmallow words because they don't have a lot of substance to them. They're kind of squishy. I'm going to encourage you to pause the video and take 2 minutes to write out one of your victim stories. Something simple like getting a parking ticket, or someone's dog got loose in your yard, or somebody dinged your car door, or you're given a late fee on a utility bill. Something small. Now in this process of writing, I encourage you to get a little dramatic. All right? I want you to pretend as if you are the headliner for the latest daytime soap opera. Really blow it out of proportion. Really get dramatic. And the point is for you to really highlight some of that victim language that you use and how it sounds even a little ridiculous that we're giving our power away to such a small event in our lives. Take 2 minutes now, pause the video, and we'll come back and I'll share you an example. Welcome back. Now, how did it feel? How did it feel to blow the story a little bit out of proportion, to really use a lot of this victim language? Did it sound a little bit more ridiculous? Did it feel like, wow, what am I doing giving my power away to this? Or for some of us, it's like, no, this is still a very valid story. I want you to pay attention to your language today and this week and recognize where you're using some of these marshmallow words and even catch other people using these marshmallow words. Catch yourself in your victim stories. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.